Did you think when you got into the trades that it would lead to you traveling around the country?
Absolutely not. I don't think anybody gets in the trades thinking they're going to be traveling around the country.
Not at all.
But it's been a fun ride.
Where all have you gone around the country so far?
So my first place that I went to was to compete down in Florida. So we went to Tampa, competed, and then I was able to go to Chicago, Las Vegas, West Palm Beach, Dallas. So, I mean, we've jumped all over the place. So
pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's been a lot of fun.
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. So, did you know when you got out of high school that you wanted to get in the trades?
So I actually went to a vocational high school. So I took plumbing while I was in high school. So my sophomore, my junior, and my senior year, I was learning the trades. My senior year, I went out, instead of going to high school for my shop week, I'd actually go out and co-op and was hands-on my senior year of high school. So I came out of the gate expecting to do plumbing.
That's a good thing. And it's funny because Texas, just in the past few years, started embracing that same type training. You come in your freshman year.
Yep.
You learn reading, writing, arithmetic, I guess. But then if you decide you're going to do the trades, you roll over into, right now they've got plumbing. They're bringing in electrical and HVAC.
Okay.
But I always thought that was so neat when I first heard that. Because I knew when I was going to school, I was probably not going to college.
Right.
I was tired of school before I started high school. And if it wasn't for girls or football, I probably wouldn't have stayed.
Right.
But, it's so neat to see that. I mean, we took all the shops classes out of the schools, and now we're bringing full-blown trades back in.
Right.
So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing schools that were existing getting renovated so that you're getting the more modern technology in the schools. So, like, you're learning what's being used out in the field, too, which is unbelievable. It's not like you're learning... you get basic soldering and things like that because obviously people are still doing it, but you're also seeing what a pro press is doing and you're seeing what some of this new technology is doing. So you're stepping out on the field with a leg up, but against somebody that is just joining, after
Just
they graduate.
deciding to get in the
exactly.
trades.
So it's a great opportunity, and I mean, I'm thankful that my parents pushed me towards that.
Yeah.
But it's great, and to see more and more trade schools going up and it really making an impact, just especially with the shortage of tradesmen and women we have in the country right now.
So up in your area, are trade schools becoming I'm not going to say more popular than college, but are more and more people starting to look at the trade schools now? Definitely.
So when I graduated in 2003, it was a small waiting list to get in. The waiting list nowadays is insane. My daughter's actually going to be going to a vocational school next year, and we applied for the school, and we crossed our fingers hoping that we'd get in because not everybody does. And it's not just the city that you're in. It's a community of cities around you that are trying to get in. So the school that she's going to is kind of state of the art. It's relatively new, so it's got a lot of want to get into that school. And thankfully, my daughter was lucky enough to get in, but not everybody was as fortunate as her. So,
what does she want to be when she grows up?
So it's tough in 8th grade figuring out what you want to do, but I mean, she's thrown out a few different ideas of doing either cosmetology or interior design. Certainly not plumbing, which I'm okay with also. But no, she's keeping her options open, which is good because your freshman year, you go in and you do, 12 or 10 shops. So you can see, kind of the you're in there for like a week or so and you see a small portion what that is. And, hopefully one of those grabs your attention and that's what, you move forward with for the rest of your career. But which is what happened with me. I was able to take the shops when I was a freshman, and then...
So your freshman year then isn't normal high school. It's shop classes?
So it's a combination of the two. So
Okay.
you go in for a week, you do your traditional math, science, English, and then your next week is your shop week. So your freshman year is, academics, and then you'll be in plumbing, and then you'll be academics, and then you'll be in electrical.
Oh, wow.
Academics, Cosmo, academics, so you're seeing, 12 shops or so. So you can actually kind of get a good feel for what each shop would be able to offer you.
And see, they don't have that many schools down here. I mean, they've got cosmetology schools here,
Right.
but it's not part of the high school. And I do think some of the schools are starting to put stuff like that in, which I think is a great idea.
Right.
Nursing, trades, cosmetology, anything like that someone can get out and roll right into work.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you graduated high school, did you already have a plumbing license then, or?
So I had a lot of my schooling hours. I had some of my in the field hours. I needed 2 more years in the field. So I got my journeyman's license when I was 20.
Okay.
Coming right out of high school.
Okay. So what kind of money did you make right out of high school? I mean, I know that's 20 years ago. But.
So I was on par for making a journeyman's license, a first year journeyman's salary at that point. So, $21, $22 an hour, I think, when I first came out of high school, or shortly after my first year of out of high school. So
now, was this union or non-union?
Non-union.
Okay, non-union.
Yep, residential, non-union. We're just at that point of my career, I was just doing service work, building towards more of the bathroom renovations and some of the bigger projects. But $22 an hour 20 years ago,
right out of high school, that's good money, man.
Yeah, a lot of my other friends were burying themselves in college debt, where I was making, a decent living at the time, enough to live on your own. So it's interesting.
Walking right out of high school, it's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
So what made you pick plumbing?
So my freshman year, I went through all of them. I actually went to the vocational school thinking electrical was my thing. I had an uncle that was an electrician.
Then you realized you were too smart to be an electrician. Sorry,
Well,
it slips out.
I enjoyed cleaning up after myself.
There you go. Yeah, you knew how to work a broom. You couldn't be an electrician.
So I took electrical. I loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. Plumbing was one of my later shops that I got to experience, I think, in my third quarter. And for whatever it was, I just fell in love with it. I love soldering. It was something that you could do artwork with. You can tell a good solder joint compared to a bad solder joint. Both of them hopefully aren't going to leak, but there's a difference between the two. So it was just one of those things where I caught onto that, and I'm like, this is it, I think. And once I got into plumbing, every other shop was either second, third, fourth. It was always plumbing at that point. So I was fortunate enough to be able to be selected, because you do have a lot of people that want the bigger shops, as the plumbings and the electricals. And I was fortunate enough to get in, and sky's the limit was from there.
So what was the first job you got after you got out?
So I worked for my brother. We did residential, a lot of bathroom remodels, a lot of boiler replacements, kitchen upgrades. It was, basic stuff. We didn't do a ton of service, a little bit here and there, but it was more renovations that we were really doing.
That's fun, because you get to tear stuff apart, see what's on the walls. How do you fix it?
Right.
How do you change it to make it better, improve it, whatever it is. So I like that. It's neat stuff.
Yeah.
Take a minute and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I'm Craig Childress, lead worker of the plumbing shop at Boston University. My day-to-day consists of really anything that my boss needs. I'm there to assist 26 other guys. Some days I'm doing complete renovations, which is what we're in the middle of right now. We renovate the brownstones for the kids coming in. Other days it's just coordinating with, our utility companies to get in and out of our buildings to do stuff. It's really anything that anybody needs. I'm there to assist as far as the plumbing department goes. So
pretty good. You still enjoy it?
I love it.
What's your favorite thing about plumbing these days?
I like new technology. Certainly the new stuff that's coming in. We're doing renovations, and we have kind of standards for our renovations. Typically they're between 8 and 10 bathrooms per building. This year we have the freedom to do a little bit different. Because every other bathroom is kind of the same on campus once you start getting into it. This year we're doing floor drains in our bathrooms because overflow toilets, they go from, the fourth floor, it's always the fourth floor, straight down through the building. So one of the improvements we're doing to the bathrooms this year is putting a floor drain in. The other option the other thing that we're doing is putting a leak defense system in to every toilet. So if this thing runs for too long, automatic shut down. So between that system, an automatic shut off on the toilet and that floor drain, we're kind of alleviating the issue of, flooding out not just the four buildings or the four floors of the building, replacing all the, building portion of that.
You bet.
But you're also relocating students, you're replacing their, computers or clothes or whatever it is.
Anything that got
damaged. There's a giant inconvenience for everybody that's involved in that. So we're taking the steps to kind of go above and beyond that. And that'll be a fun project for me this year. And then we're doing heat pump water heaters in serving the hot water for this building. So we're just making some improvements that we haven't done in the past and just kind of keeping pace with the way the industry's going right now.
So out of all the other trades that you tried your freshman year, electrician, probably your second choice.
Yep.
Was there one that just surprised you where you're like, wow, you know what, this would really be cool?
Welding.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You enjoyed it?
I got into welding.
Everybody loves welding.
And I got okay at it, that week that you're there. But when you see a good weld.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't do it, but when you see somebody else do a good weld, it's the stacked coins is just ridiculously beautiful. So I mean, similar to anything that you come in to see us is everything's perfectly straight and level and pitched properly and evenly spaced, and your solder joints don't have drips, and you can see
absolutely
somebody that takes their time. But I mean, welding's the same way. But I mean, really any trade, you go to an electrician that's done a nice job on a panel. You can tell.
Absolutely.
This thing is perfect.
So does it surprise you that there's as much pride as there is in the trades?
I don't think so. I think at an early age, I was able to have a lot of pride myself. So I thought that seeing other people that took pride in their work, that's the people that I kind of gravitated to. So those are the people that I spent the most time with. Those are the people that I paid the most attention to, just because it was like, all right, well, I'm learning and I really want to be able to do nice work, but you're currently doing really nice work. And that's, I want to learn from you. You're my guy, and then once I tried to catch up as quickly as I could. And then I was, all right, well, now you're my guy because you're doing something different. You're doing a different portion of the field. And I mean, plumbing has such a variety of portions as you can do. So it was, plumbing for me. And then I got into boilers, and then it was HVAC. And, it was just the more I could learn, the better. I loved learning, and I loved being able to learn from people. And even if I wasn't necessarily doing it, like I'd be on a job where I do a boiler. Electrician would come in, they do low voltage wiring, and I would pay attention to what they're. Bless you.
Excuse me.
No. So I'd pay attention to that electrician, what he was doing, and not that I would communicate with him. I wouldn't bother him. I'd keep on doing my work, but I'd pay attention to what he was doing and how he was doing it, because, like any trade, there's good ways to do it and there's bad ways to do it.
Oh yeah.
And I always. The first time I had ever seen wires run behind a boiler wall and kind of hide everything, I walked up to him and I'm like, all right, well, when are you going to be done when are you going to be done wiring it? He's like, no, I'm done. And he the way he did it was just like, he came out of the bottom circulator, went right into the wall. I mean, he hit everything, but everything was accessible also.
You bet.
So it wasn't like it was you're burying the next guy doing service work. It was perfect.
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. You've done residential, commercial,
A little bit.
Industrial.
A little bit, yep.
What's your favorite part?
I'd say residential would probably be my favorite.
Service or new construction?
Renovations.
Okay.
Only because you're working within what you're given. So I feel like new construction, you don't like this, you don't like that. You can kind of adjust things. Renovations, I think that you're thinking a little bit more. You're kind of taking all the tools out of the box compared to just, this is how we're going to do every new construction. So I think it just makes you work a little bit harder, or your brain work a little bit harder. I like challenging myself. So
Good.
Anytime that I can get something to do that's new, or something to do there, it's like, all right, well, we want this here. All right, well, I'm going to make sure that that's where it goes. Like it may be a little bit harder, or maybe we have to think outside the box, but ultimately that pipe is where, if that's where you want it, that's where I'm going to put it.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, exactly.
The challenges, I remember I'd take apprentices out on jobs with me when I had my own company, and we'd walk in, and in just a couple of minutes, I'm like, okay, here's what the problem is. They're like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's just, there's not much else it can be, and
Right.
you go through it. But I love having the analytical mind where it's, how do we make this work? How do we do this? How do we do this? How do we get this pipe right there?
Right.
And it was funny because I was doing a remodel, First United Methodist Church in downtown Dallas, and we're outside one day, and the director of the church, who was the one making sure we did what all we were supposed to do, him and I are standing outside talking. He said, Roger, how do you do it? I said, do what? He said, there's nothing I've brought to you that you've said we can't do that. And we're standing outside, and I kind of looked and I looked up, and I saw the steeple up there. I said, Rusty, you see that steeple up there? He said, yeah. I said, I can put a toilet on top of it and make it work. He said, no, you can't. I said, oh, I can. It's going to be expensive,
Right.
but I can make that work. And he's like, just the way your mind works. But you've got to have that mindset of, look, I can do anything.
Right.
And then figure out how.
Yeah. Yeah, you may walk away from that conversation and be like, oh, man, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
then
But
that
we'll
goes
figure it
away, and you figure it out. Yeah.
Uh-huh. You're also a certified HVAC tech, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
So I always like pushing the envelope on what I'm learning. I don't like really standing still. I always try to learn as much as I can. Working for a service-based company, I was doing a lot of boilers, a lot of comfort. So it was comfort systems really for us. It was, on-demand water heaters, boilers. We'd be doing bathroom models, but a little bit less of bathroom models. And we'd always slow down a little bit during the summer. So I was with this company for a while.
And they were getting busy in the summers.
They weren't just yet.
Okay.
So we were trying to figure out something that we could keep busy, because we didn't do a lot of new construction. Construction is what booms during the summer. So my boss came to me and was like, hey, what do you think about learning air conditioning? I'm like, absolutely.
Right.
I'm in. Let's do it. So he sent me down to a school in Arkansas, 2-week course, crash course. It was, you learn real basic stuff, refrigerants.
I pretty much went through the same course.
Okay, so you're familiar with
refrigerants, electrical, safety.
Right.
And then
You take your EPA.
Yeah. I got my EPA too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you go down, you take that crash course. We came back, and my boss, and it's just really me and one other tech who
You're our
went down.
HVAC guy
So
now.
we're our guys, like I didn't have a guy to be like, hey,
yeah.
Roger,
How do
we do this?
Right.
It was us, and of course we made mistakes, but the company backed that and said, hey, if you make a mistake, we'll fix it. So there was times where we made mistakes, but we learned a lot, and the company always backed us and always made it right with the customer, and it was never an issue. We were very forward, and we went through, and it's just, you do it. And once you start doing it, the more you do it, the more you learn, and then the more you do it, and you come up with a question, you research it. And online was a beautiful thing for me when I got into it.
Right.
It's because I'd research and figure out what was going on, and what can I do better, and taking classes. And it was like, all right, well, John Stone would put on a class. I'd jump into that class, or this supply house was putting on a class. Whatever we could do to learn it, but I didn't really have that person. Where like plumbing wise, I definitely did. Plumbing wise,
Right.
I had endless supply of people that I could be like, hey, what's this or what's that? Where HVAC, you just went and learned it, and I know a lot of people do it that way. So it was a great experience. It really was. It was fun going down to be like, all right, we're gonna take on a new trade. Go down 2-week crash course.
Uh-huh.
came back, I think a few years later, I got my NATE certification with that same 2-week crash course. We went down for like the advanced training for it.
You bet.
And I can't thank that school enough for doing what they did for me. I mean, even my boss at the time for being like, hey, we have a void in summers. We need to fill it. We're going to start running air conditioning calls, and we want you to be one of our guys to go down and do it. So that opportunity alone was a great opportunity for me as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, are you still at that company or no?
No. I work for Boston University now.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. And I didn't know if they were tied in. So you
No,
work
no.
directly for the university.
Work directly for the university.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool deal. Is that crazy working on dormitories and around college students all day, every day, or they do some crazy stuff?
It's you'll see some crazy stuff for sure. You have to think outside the box because some of these students don't. It's their first time being on their own.
Oh yeah.
So like you have to kind of take that into consideration, and not that it's a bad thing. That's just where they are in life.
Mm-hmm.
And, so something that you would think, you go to a tub that's full of water. Well, all right. Well, it's clogged. Well, it might not be clogged. Let's try the tripways. And if the tripways, you flip the tripways, water drains out. You just nicely explain to them, hey, like this lever lets you drain the water, fill the water. But if you're taking a tub and, you go through, and then at that point, if you have a good experience with that person, you'd be like, hey, like, do you have any other questions about the bathroom, this and that, or can I help
anything
you
I can help you with?
They're all super, super nice, and they're actually extremely appreciative. It's just they've never really needed to do it. Maybe they have showers at home and that they're not taking tubs, and so maybe their roommate flipped it open and they didn't realize that was something that moved, and so it's always something interesting at BU. And then with the brownstones and the renovations, and a lot of the times for a very long time, I feel like a lot of people would take, a hot water system would go down and they just go like for like. Well, now we have options, and now my boss now wants to be like, all right, well, what's the best option? Not just let's take this.
What's the cheapest or the fastest?
And put this back in.
Right.
Well, do we need that? And is there a better option? And like those are the things that really make my job more interesting now. And I'm a big part of that, which is cool. So we can go up, I figure out what's going on. I talk to him, we figure out a good solution, and that's it. It's no longer just, box A for box B, so it's awesome.
I do. I like that.
Yeah.
How old are the buildings you're working on?
Ooh.
Boston's old.
Boston's old. So we have brand new buildings that are 4 years old, and we have buildings that are over 100 years old. So that's the cool thing about working in Boston is you do see a wide variety. We're still pulling out lead bends, and you're
we got plumbers still installing them. So
yeah. I mean, we're seeing kind of everything up there, which is cool. It's always something new, something fun. I mean, there's days where it's not something new and something fun, and it's repair the faucet, or you clog toilets, whatever it may be. But then you have days where you're doing something interesting and something fun. You're digging into something. You're troubleshooting something that most people on campus aren't troubleshooting. So you're getting into that and fixing a problem. And I mean, those are problem solving is always the fun part, I think, of our job.
Now, do you still have old galvanized water piping in there? Or is most of that all changed out?
Most of it's all changed out, yeah. They have done a great job with upgrading as much as they can, especially like we had lead, I think there was like 1 or 2 lead lines on campus when I first came, and those came out the second they found out about them. So, the lead water mains, but I mean, any of that stuff, they're very, very good. I mean, safety wise, we have, an EH&S department where they come in, make sure everything's safe for us, not only working, but safe for the kids being in there. And, so they're covering almost everything that we need. So it's great from that standpoint.
I love that. And me and my son have both worked on universities. So, I mean, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff too.
Right.
Normally through new builds, but still when you're on campuses, you get called or asked questions or things like that. What's the coolest project you've ever done?
On campus.
No, just your coolest plumbing project or HVAC.
So I like doing jobs where I can do all of it. So because I had the HVAC, we did a residential home. It was a large home, and we renovated pretty much the whole thing. We did some bathrooms, so I was able to pick up the plumbing portion of that. But we also did a mechanical space that had a boiler in it because it had air handlers. So we replaced all the air handlers, and it was all top of the line stuff. It was all high SEER ratings for the air conditioning. Every add-on we could possibly do. So like those were the really cool things because you put box for box is. It's a job, but it's just not necessarily the job that.
Right. It's not exciting.
It's not exciting,
Yeah.
So in for sure, I'll go do that stuff. But the stuff that, makes you think and really impacts the quality of life of those people is really the stuff that I enjoy doing.
That's cool. Have you ever been to the Plumbing Museum in Boston?
No, I don't think I have.
Dude.
I know.
Did you even know the National Plumbing Museum for Plumbers, or the National Plumbing Museum, I believe is what it's called, is in Boston?
Really? No, I had no idea.
Okay, so it's called the Plumbing Museum in Boston. And
That's awesome.
I got to go speak there. The union had me come speak at the first plumbing council meeting, something like that. And it was really neat. Got to go speak there and tour the museum and look at old wood pipe. You ever run into that?
I have, yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is. The water department showed up, and they had some wood piping in the back of their truck they had just pulled out, which is crazy that it was still actually in operation.
You bet. And it does, and it works. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, I love all the old stuff like that. Getting in there and to go through it and tour it and see it, that was fun.
Yeah.
So, how much, after you learned HVAC, did you spend most of the time just going back and forth? Or did you run HVAC for a while and then get back into plumbing every now and then? Or did you just do a little bit of all of it?
So a little bit of all of it. Most of the companies I've worked for over the years have done plumbing, heating, and cooling. So I show up to the shop, say, hey, this is your job for the day. And I'd go do it. So it didn't really matter. We were kind of set up for doing anything. So if it was HVAC that day, it was HVAC. If it was, plumbing, it was plumbing. It didn't really matter.
It's nice because it gives you a broad variety. It keeps you from getting bored.
Right.
It's not like I'm doing the exact same thing over and over and over every day.
And then the other cool thing was that you'd get a rapport with the customer. So you go in and be like, oh, I'd do the boiler or something, and we were talking about their AC, and all of a sudden they need an upgrade of the AC or just service or whatever it is. And can you take a look at this? It's not just, hey, you're doing a bathroom. Can you take a look at my faucet? It's, can you take a look at this and this and this? Because I was fortunate enough to be able to learn all of it. So,
and the cool thing is, I mean, you've probably done enough HVAC now that you understand electrical better than a lot of electricians.
For sure, the low voltage, which is actually kind of one of the things that a lot of electricians
don't understand.
You bet. And I don't know if that's like a national thing, but for sure in Massachusetts, low voltage wiring is almost its own separate trade. And you have to be very good at it because it's all control wiring, and you do something wrong, you're blowing up a control. So
absolutely.
But it was, I got into, I actually think that's why learning air conditioning made it a little bit easier for me, was because I knew the low voltage wiring for boilers and doing all that. So
that's good, because whenever I first got into HVAC, now you did 2 weeks straight. I did, basically it was 12 Saturdays. Because I was still working full time during the week.
Right.
So I'd go over there on Saturdays. I was doing a lot of work at DFW Airport, and they had educational dollars they had to spend. So they came to all the trades companies and said, hey, is there anything y'all want to learn that's associated with your trade?
Right.
And, if so, we've got $3 million we've got to spend. So not many people from my company put in a request. So I put in one for HVAC.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we don't have HVAC. I said, well, there's a school right down the road. They're accredited. Can I help introduce y'all? And they got it all set up. And they said, okay, you're good to go.
That's awesome.
So, pretty neat.
Yeah.
But that's probably the last time I ever did it. I got into it thinking one day when I open my own company, then I can do HVAC too, go get my TACLA certification and all that. opened my plumbing company, and man, we just started growing plumbing and
Right.
stayed busy. And we're like, okay, I don't
Plumbing
need to do
kept you
anything
busy,
right now.
yeah.
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
And then started doing social media, and then it really got really crazy.
Right.
So yeah, pretty wild. So tell me about the competitions that you've been in now.
All right, so 2 years ago, I went down to Tampa, Florida to do the Service Titan Elite Trades Championship Series. The way that I got into this was my old apprentice, who, became a licensed plumber, Nate certified, the whole nine. But, how I met him was he was my apprentice years ago. And he went down, won it the first year that they had HVAC. So I saw him on TV. I saw him with this big check for $40,000. Talked to him after, and I'm like, congratulations, this is awesome. How do I become part of it? So he told me about, HVAC Nationals, go on, sign up. So I was able to, was fortunate enough to qualify for round one, the first year down there. So round one is a 5-minute online test. You just answer as many questions as you can. They pull the top, I think, like 40 or so people to move down to round two. So round two is an at-home kit. They send you a box in the mail, and it has, your pipes, your fittings, and you have to assemble this on camera. You put a nitrogen purge through there. You braze the all your fittings and everything on camera, and then you submit that video to the competition. If you're selected within, I think it's the top 10 or so for HVAC, you move down to compete down in Florida. So I qualified for round two the first year, and they rolled out plumbing. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm more of a plumber than I am an HVAC tech at this point. I was like, so I'll enter both. So I did the same thing. Round one, it was 5 minutes. You go in, I qualified for round two. I had 2 kits at this point. One was for brazing, one was for soldering. Assembled them. You have a timer. My wife's a saint and had the patience to video everything that I was doing. We submitted them, and we're like, all right, well, who knows? I have no idea who I'm competing against, how I did or anything. I just went out, did my best. So fortunately enough, I was able to get qualified for both of them. Went down 2 years ago to Tampa and came on top for both of them. So we won $40,000 in HVAC, $10,000 in plumbing. And
what would they pay HVAC more than plumbing? That's right. That's not right.
So I agree.
I'm just going to complain right now.
But it was a great competition. I mean, when you go down there, they make you feel like $1 million. I mean, there is not a person that's associated with this competition who isn't just an unbelievable person. Like every person that we met were so positive and so for the trades, and they really were supporting you. So, we went down, cloud nine, just a whirlwind of what was happening around me, and it happened so quickly. And, you're competing on stage to do, I think the first year was a water heater and a sink. You had to do the piping in the wall, run some PEX lines. So that was the plumbing. You had an hour and a half to do it. I was the only person that finished it that first year. I won that. That was the first day that I was down there. Second day was HVAC. There's 2 rounds that particular year. We had to assemble air handler, air cleaner, A-coil, and a little piece of ductwork for round one. Then we went into horizontally mounted air handler, run some line sets, do some condensate piping. So same thing. It was, they give you a small thing that's an hour and a half approximately to complete. And you time in, you time out based on your time, quality of work, safety, following the, what your scope of work was. You'd either, win or not. So I was over the moon. I went down being like, all right, well, maybe I'll have a good showing, and then to come back and win both of them. Fast forward to the following year, which was last year, kind of the same similar things happened. Was I qualified round one, qualified round two, went down. Fortunately enough, was able to win both of them again. So I'm back-to-back plumbing and HVAC champs.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So tell me, start out with the written on the plumbing. Is it just code book questions or sizing questions, or what all kind of stuff do they cover?
So it's code book questions. the PHCC Florida helps put the questions together, and it's just quick questions. It's about minimum sizes of different things. It's colors of piping. It's, you know, minimum size on the ground, you know, things like that. So it's things that you don't really need to size. So you don't need a chart.
Right.
You're just, it's knowledge.
You should know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so you go through, you have 5 minutes, you take it on your phone. It's plumbingnationals.com. You fill all your information in. And nobody knows. Like you, it's not like they say, you know, Craig Childress got a 10.
Right.
You know, it's just they give you a leaderboard. It's the top 10, and you know, if you fall on that leaderboard, great. If you don't, there's still 10 more spots that you could potentially qualify for round 2. So nobody knows you're doing it. You don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. If you don't feel comfortable kind of putting yourself out there, like just go do it. You take the test. It's 5 minutes. Taking the test one time may qualify you for round 2, and you just don't know what's going to happen.
Wow.
So you go, you take your test. It's a 5 minute, just knowledge based thing. You know, no pressure on you because nobody knows you're doing it.
Right.
You know, you don't want to tell your friends, your buddies, you know, the people you work with. Then don't. You know,
Did you tell everybody before you went down to Florida?
So I kept it the first year away from everybody as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then the competition was like, hey, we want to come and film you. So I had to go to BU and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. They want to come and film, but they need permission to do that. So once that happened, cat was out of the bag. Everybody knew about it. So, but everybody's really supportive.
Oh,
you know?
I bet.
I mean, it was awesome to see the support that I had going down there first year. And then when I went back down the second year, they were even more supportive. So I can't, you know, I should have just said, hey, I'm going to do this because it is a cool thing. Even if you don't win, you go down. It's a great experience. They pay for you to go down, compete, and just showcase your skills. And then, you know, a few months later, they air it on TV for you on CBS Sports, and you know, you get to sit there with your family and, you know, watch
yourself compete.
Yeah, you know. So, and honestly, that was kind of one of the best things, that the most unexpected best thing that came out of the competition was sitting there with my family and watching them watch me compete was like the most ridiculous thing. I have a 6-year-old at home.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, repeating everything that they say, and like they say funny things about, you know, they were talking about getting the duck boats if I won again to go down Lansdowne Street. So like my kids pick up on all this stuff, and you know, we'll be there, and one of them will say something about something that was said in the show randomly. You know, it has nothing to do with the show, but they're repeating that stuff, and you know, to me, that's really what the big takeaway from the competition was.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was
pretty cool. So, and I like that. You had to braze for the HVAC test, solder for the plumbing test.
Right.
How long did it take you? A full hour and a half when you were there doing the plumbing and doing the HVAC?
So,
and while you're doing it, do they have 9 other people doing the same thing?
Oh yeah.
And they just got cameras on each one of them?
Oh yeah.
And you can see each other.
So yes and no. When you come out, like you're coming out onto a stage and there's lights and smoke, and you're announced with a loudspeaker, and you know, there's people all around you, and there's cameras floating up high above you, and you know, they're getting you from every angle, and you walk out, and then, you know, Chip Wade's over there, and he's announcing everything, and he's like, all right, you know, he counts you down and you get started. But, you know, I'd be here and somebody else would be here, and like, they're all scattered. But the thing is you're so focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, you better be.
Yeah, right. If you're
watching them, you ain't getting your stuff done.
Right,
yeah.
You're not going to win.
You bet.
Or you're just the most amazing tradesperson in the world if you can do both. But I couldn't. So I'm just laser focused on doing what I'm doing. The biggest thing is the cameras, because you know, when you're not doing that, you're in a basement and you're just doing your thing, and you know, you don't have a camera on you, or you're in an attic doing your thing and you don't have a camera on you. But when you're in there, and if you make a mistake, they see you, right?
Oh, everybody sees.
You know, and then if you don't make a mistake, they're also seeing you. So like they're not there to make you look bad, but like if it happens, it's just part of the show. You know, like it's not.
And that's what people want to see, unfortunately.
Exactly.
They want to see, look, everybody's not perfect.
Right. They want a real as real of a competition as you possibly can get. And I actually enjoy it. I think it's a great way to do it. But when my first year I was there and I was doing the water heater and I had my tools up and I'm tightening the female adapter on top of the water heater, and I went like this a little bit too far and I made direct eye contact with that camera, and I paused for a second. But then, like, it just kind of clicked, and I just got back and do what I was doing. But it, like, deer in headlights look for sure, you know. So it was, it's so great though. You know, they really do a great job to make you feel like most of the country doesn't. So I feel like most of the country doesn't really truly appreciate what we do every day.
Oh,
you know?
we know that.
So when you go down there and they say, hey, you know, come down, we want you to compete in this competition that you guys are doing every day, right? So we want to have you come out through smoke and lights and celebrate you individually. So you come out and then we're going to bring you out, we're going to line you up, and we're going to give you a giant check. So never in my life did I think I'd have a check this big with my name on it and, you know, $40,000 on it. So, like, even that was a cool experience. I have these really awesome trophies that were very, very well made, and I mean, they sit at my house, and like these things can never be taken from me. You know, It doesn't matter what happens this year. I fail. I don't make it down to Florida. What they've given me as a whole already has been unbelievable.
This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. What's the website again?
So plumbingnationals.com would get you into the plumbing competition. HVACnationals.com get you in the HVAC. Both of them round one, which is happening right now, until June 30th. It's a 5-minute competition. You have 5 minutes to answer all these questions. So sign in. You have to put basic information, nothing too crazy, like your name, your names, the state you're from,
email address.
Like basic information. There is on the HVAC side, there is an apprentice division, so you can go and do apprentice division for HVAC. So you just click on that when you're submitting, and then you just go take the test. And like I said, it doesn't even give you a score, so you don't, or it gives you a score, but it doesn't give you a score on where you stand.
Right.
You know, so like you'll know how you did.
They say you make a 85.
Great. Right. So you got 85, but the other thing is you also have to get over 70%. Yeah. So like if you get an 85, but you're at 65% right, it doesn't even actually qualify. So you don't know that portion of it, and you don't know what anybody else is doing. So all you can do is just take it every day. You take it once a day.
You can take it multiple times.
Take it once a day.
I'm assuming the questions change.
Questions change, yeah. So there's a giant pool, and they kind of rotate through, and sometimes you get something that you're familiar with, and it's a quick answer, and other times you're like, oh, well, you know, this and that, and you're doing math quickly, but it's you can't. There's nothing to lose,
right?
You know, like you go down, and if you don't do it this year, then at least you get the learning experience of maybe being able to compete next year. And you know, like if you go down, there's a pro that just competed and won second place in HVAC last year. He worked his way up through the apprentice side and then jumped over to the pro side and came in second in the pro side, and he won the apprentice division last year.
Wow.
So like you can see his progression as he's moving along his career too, which is, you know, awesome. And, you know, it's the people down there are just, you know, second to none. I mean, the tradesmen and women down there, the sponsors that are down there are really, really awesome. They're also supportive of you. Intersports, the people that put the competition on, I mean, you can't find better people than that. And Service Titans, the title sponsor. They are cream of the crop people. I mean, there's say a dozen people, every one of them, I'd be happy to call my friend.
Right.
You know, like they're all so pro trades that it's a special opportunity. I'd highly recommend everybody to just take the chance and take that 5-minute test. And you know, if you get through, then you get through, and you have these opportunities. And if you get through,
a box and put some stuff together,
right? You know, and it's not like it's anything that we're really not doing day to day. So it's committing to taking the test. It's doing what you do every day. The biggest thing is if you're not used to being on camera, just realize when you turn around, there's a cameraman.
There's
right
always
there,
a camera.
You know, so like it's just, but like you have fun with it. I think at one point I was like pretending I was juking the cameraman because like they're there and I'm trying to get around them, and it was a fun thing to do, and nobody saw it on camera, but that guy knows that I juked him.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we got to have fun doing what we do.
Right.
What we really do.
Right.
Take a minute again and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
All right, so I'm Craig Childress. I'm the lead worker of the plumbing shop at Boston University. My job consists of really anything that the Boston University needs. It's you have a system that's giving us a hard time. Typically, I'm responding to a lot of that stuff. We're doing brownstone renovations. I'd be a big portion of that. So it's the larger stuff that I'm typically doing. And then, we have 26 other guys that also run the campus too. So it's not just me that's there. We have a really big team. I mean, they all kind of have their own specialty thing that they're good at. And when we need, somebody to go over here, we know who the best person is for that job. And we just run that. We run the shop that way. And my boss is awesome. And he has, I think we both have similar mindsets. So we always want to do the right thing. If we can fix the job, doing this part, but we can really, make the problem go away with doing a little bit more, like we're going to go that extra step. And that kind of starts with him. So
now, is he a plumber too?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
That's always nice.
Exactly.
Work with somebody that understands exactly what
Right.
you do.
So he was promoted within two, which he was one of us. So he went from, doing what I was doing to being lead worker. He got promoted up, and then I took his spot when he got promoted up. So
he get on there and play the 5-minute questions every day?
I don't think he's doing it. I'm trying to get him to, but
Have you already done yours today?
I have not. Okay. So I don't have to do the plumbing one. I qualified for plumbing last month. Sorry.
Okay.
So last month, if you're the leaderboard at the top of the leaderboard, they move you on to the second round automatically. So
they do this all year long then?
No, so it starts in March, I believe, and then ends in June. So one of the competitors from last year I know won the first month because I talk to him frequently. So he won the first month, so he'll be back in round 2. I won, I think, the second month, so I'll be back in round 2. So it's fun. You get to know, like, there's a lot of familiar faces and there's a lot of new faces. So you get to know some of the people, and honestly, it's a great week to just go down there and be celebrated for what you do every single day.
No, dude.
Win or loss.
That stuff is cool.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because I've got to see the PHCC competitions, the national competitions. I've got to see the unions, the UA, their national competition at the instructor training program in Michigan. I've got to go to so many regional union trades competitions. Plumbing, HVAC, pipe fitting, and welding, and to get to see that, and then Skills USA, getting to go to that and look at everything they do. It's like, man, this is just crazy. Now, were you in Skills USA or compete in that?
I didn't, but my brother, my older brother did for a little bit. But I was just down in Massachusetts. It was in Western Mass, where the state competition for the Skills USA, and I was a judge for that. So that was awesome to see.
That is.
I was part of the. I was judging the Teamworks build. So, are you familiar with the Teamworks?
Yeah, a school from Texas, Belton, a high school. They won Teamworks this last year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So it was cool to see that structure go up, them work as a team, and then kind of split off.
And they won it at nationals.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was like that's a big deal.
Yeah. And honestly, to see what we saw in a state level and then to find out who won nationals, they must have been phenomenal, because the state level was really good too.
I'll tell you what Michael Carrillo's done down there. He's grown it. They compete every year. They're at nationals every year. So it's like,
that's awesome.
This is freaking pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nationals is neat because they've got the high school and the college level.
Okay.
So you get to be there and watch it all. And it's like, okay, this is nuts.
Nice. Are any of the students on the college level from Any of the national teams previously?
Yes, I want to say that he told me that some of his are competing at the college level now.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, they're doing pretty neat. Texas State Technical College takes a team down there, too.
Nice.
So they normally – that's where I ran into Jimmy Bibb last year. So,
Nice.
yeah, pretty neat stuff to watch.
It's awesome to see the future of our trades and what they have the ability to do, because I certainly wouldn't have been at that level at that age.
Well, I just found out yesterday that the Skills USA National, their keynote speaker canceled. So I'm applying like, hey, if y'all need a speaker,
Right.
I'd be happy to do it. And I got a message back late yesterday, said they've already found somebody, but thanks.
That would
I
have
was
been
like,
awesome.
man, that'd have been great.
Yeah,
Now,
that would've been a
I've been
great
wanting to
experience.
speak at that event. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So tell me about being in the field. Tell me about your best day ever plumbing.
Oh, best day ever plumbing. Oh, man, my best day ever plumbing. I like figuring out things that other people weren't able to figure out. So I don't know if it's my best day ever plumbing, but I do recall there was one particular at a steam boiler, and I feel like I heard that every person in the company had gone to this. And I was doing an install project. They're like, Craig, can you swing in and take a look at this job? So what was happening was I've always been told if you go to a steam boiler, you drain that steam boiler down every time you leave to make sure that low water cutoff shuts off the system, right? Because you don't want the gunk holding up the float and having a dry fire. So that's how I was always taught. So I went to the steam system, and what they were having was the spill switch was coming down, saying it was block chimney. So the spill switch was located right next to the jacket and not like on the top of the boiler. So the spill switch was right there, and what was happening was the low water cutoff, the water was draining from the boiler, the low water cutoff wasn't shutting down, superheating the boiler and heating up that spill switch
Expansion.
just enough to shut down the boiler. But it was, if you didn't see it happen, you would be like, all right, it's a spill switch, a block chimney. Let's get a chimney company and inspect it, the whole nine. So I figured this thing out, I don't know, probably like 30 minutes into it, just because I'm going through everything.
You bet.
And everybody was like, no, Craig, it's the chimney, it's the chimney, it's the chimney. I'm like, all right, well, let's check. I couldn't find anything. Everything was running perfect. I dropped that low water cutoff, like I've always been told, and boiler didn't shut down. And I'm like, oh man, this is what it is. So we fixed it. I took the low water cutoff, cleaned it all out, made sure everything was operating properly, and never a problem again.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You got to love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now tell me about your worst day plumbing.
Ooh. Worst day plumbing. So, can it be my worst HVAC day?
No, we'll get to those in a minute.
All right. My worst. My worst. So the one thing that I couldn't fix, because as long as you can fix it, it's
You bet.
It's a mistake, but
job's not done till it's fixed and we're
you know,
done. Yeah,
so
yeah.
as long as you can go. I was young and I burnt a kitchen sink faucet hose, and I was young, and that's the reason why it was just always stuck with me. And for whatever reason, we put the faucet in first. And it was a new kitchen remodel. Put the kitchen faucet in first. I was still an apprentice. I go to solder on my angle stops, and I scorched the side of the hose. So it wasn't something I could fix.
Right.
We had to replace it, and it was only the worst day, only because it was something that I couldn't fix myself. I was really young, and it just left an impression on me. But the thing is I also learned so much that day. So it was it felt like my worst day plumbing, because everything else, you have terrible days where you have a basement that's flooded because of backup, and that's a terrible day. But that wasn't self-inflicted. That was just something that happened. We're dealing with it. This hose always has stuck with me, and that's 24 years ago.
Okay, I get that. Tell me about your best day with HVAC.
Best day HVAC. I think it was the first system that I did on my own, coming back from that system. And it's not the first system, it was the first system that I accurately installed. Okay. So it actually potentially could be the same system as my worst day. But I would say when I first turned on that thermostat, set it to cool, all my pressures were correct. I'm blowing cold out, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then I start seeing condensate coming out of the condensate drain. I'm like, all right, we're doing something here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now, do they use a lot of air conditioning up in Boston?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of AC. Okay. So my worst day.
There we go. You knew it was coming.
Same job. I didn't, in my vast 2 weeks of experience, I didn't know that there was such thing as a downflow system.
Okay.
So I went to a house, it was in Cambridge, and took the model numbers off because that's how I was initially trained to do it. And went like for like. I'm like, he called the supplier. So I'm like, hey, this is what I have going on. And he's like, all right, no problem. We'll get you a system. I start ripping out the old system, put in a new system. I'm proud of myself. I'm like, this is it. I took my 2 weeks training and I'm
turned
doing
it into a job.
I'm doing
you
it.
Bet.
So turned it on, and my downflow system is now an upflow system, and I'm blowing out of the return. So, and I'd never heard of this, first of all, and I had never tested the system before I replaced it, so I didn't really know how the system was working. So I'm like trying to convince myself that that's normal and that no, it's just pulling return air out of all those smaller ones in around the rooms, and it's just, this is your main supply. And I'm just like trying to justify this in my head.
Right.
And then I do a little research. I'm like, I screwed up.
Got to flip the system.
Got to flip the system. So my worst day was my first day doing a system install, but my best day was also my first day doing an install, because when I did get it fixed and I had it right going, it was awesome. You know, to pick up a trade, to go down and go to that schooling, and I can't thank those guys enough. And for a boss to have the faith in me to pick up a trade that we didn't have a person to say, hey, this is, if you make a mistake, this is who's going to talk to you about it. It was, you just figure it out. And part of that I don't really like as a business plan, but I'm also we successfully did it. With that mistake probably changed the course of my HVAC career, because I'm like, all right, well, there's a lot more here that I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to learn it all.
Good for you.
And I went and I learned and I learned and I learned, and that mistake never happened again.
Do you still learn? Do you still study?
As often as I can. Yep.
Good for you.
Yep. I met with a manufacturer last week about new water heaters that we want to put in, and the different things that we can do with them. Even those shutoffs that were put on the toilets, I went online training to get a certification to be able to even put them in, and went to my boss and said, hey, this is kind of the idea that I came across. What do you think about it? Laid it out to him. He was on board with it, and now we're doing a more modern version of what we've done for the same way for so long, and now we're making improvements to prevent that that flood disaster to happen. So
cool.
Yeah.
Normally, I ask people the day you walked out of high school, if you could go back and tell yourself anything, what would you tell yourself? But with you, the day you got out of the 8th grade, because you got right into plumbing in high school. So I'll come back to the 8th grade for you. The day you got out of the 8th grade and realized, okay, I'm headed to high school next year. If you could go back now and tell yourself anything, what would you tell yourself?
From a professional standpoint?
Yeah. What advice would you give your younger self?
So a lot of the advice I'd give is stuff that I'm already doing. But I may have done it earlier. So keep on learning for sure. like never stop learning. That's, whether it's additional trades, whether it's a better way to do something, whether it's a different way to do something, products, anything. You have an unlimited, anybody that says, oh, I know everything, you do not know everything.
You bet.
You have so much more to learn.
You just told people right there you don't know anything.
So, I would say keep on learning, and learn early. Don't wait until you're the best plumber in the world. Like, learn before that. Like, instead of just being, this one-minded plumber, be able to do plumbing, be able to do commercial plumbing, be able to do residential plumbing, be able to do labs and commercial kitchens, and like I guess the easiest way to put it is be the person that if there's a problem, you can be called. That's the advice I guess I would give my 8th grade self.
It's a good way to look at it. Very good.
No matter the situation, plumbing and HVAC to me is the same field, just because of the merge that we've had. But be that guy that if there's a problem, or that girl, if there's a problem, that you want to be the person that's being called. And that's training. That's a lot goes into that. That's a lot of training, a lot of research on your own, staying up with the products, staying up with the technology that's in the boilers, and everything. But be that person. Be the person for the phone call.
I like it. The elite trades. You've already got through round 1.
Yep.
Round 2 coming out in July, I guess.
I think it's August that they're sending that out. Yep.
And then when do they go down to Florida?
So I think it's the second week of October is the
Good deal.
The competition this year.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Hopefully you can three-peat.
I hope so. That'd be insane.
Thanks for being on there.
Thank you so much.